Hey everybody, how's it going? Everybody, I don't know if anybody's here yet. This is going to be a bit of a trial and error process, I think. Well, let's see. I can see a comment section, so that's good. I think. Hopefully I'll be able to see if anybody actually comments. And it says how long I've been live, so that's good. Maybe I'll shut this window because it's kind of loud. Alright. Let's see. How can I... This is a trial process, so if you're watching, thanks for bearing with me while I figure this out. I wonder if there's a way that I can tweet a link to this. Maybe. Let's find out. Oh, that's not going to be it. Oh, I bet I can get to it from another page. There we go. Sure, I can share this way. Let's see. Well, for the two of you that are here, this is really exciting, and if I can figure it out, it'll be even better. I've never done a live stream on Facebook before. I was thinking about maybe doing it on YouTube, since that's where all of my other stuff is, but I thought maybe I would try doing it here because it seems like more people have access to this, and Facebook does a better job of notifying people about things happening than YouTube does. So I was kind of hoping this would be a good way to go. Let's see. Oh, hi Philip, how's it going? Good, I'm glad I can see comments. Thank you for letting me know that I can see comments. Let's see. I'm just trying to figure out if there's a good way to post a link to this to Twitter. Let's see. Not embed, that's not what I want. I don't know. Oh, thanks, Aiden. So, let me tell you about my background music. I was watching we'll see how long this lasts because my phone is about to die and that's what's playing the music. But, hey Sam, how's it going? I was watching a live stream the other day I don't know if any of you watch or listen to anything that the McElroy brothers create. They create podcasts and some other things. But Travis McElroy, who's one of the brothers, this music is too exciting, who is one of the brothers, made a video the other day because he really likes to paint his nails, and so he made a nail painting video. That was just like, not a video, it was just a live stream of him doing his nails, and it was so relaxing. It was so great. He basically made tea and was listening, or no, he didn't make tea. He had a glass of white wine and was listening to classical music and doing his nails, and I was like, this is the most relaxing thing in the world. So that is what I am intending here, is to just like, I've got my tea, I'm good to go. We've got some classical music, some spring classical. This is Verdi, actually. So, yeah, I think it'll be good. Let's see. Diana, you may have to link the general page. Well, alright, we can give that a shot. Let's see. Let's see if I can do this. I have to do everything on my computer. Every other live stream that I have ever watched, people have been doing... they've had like their live stream going on one thing, usually on a better camera than just a computer. Oh, I ruined it. Hold on. Delete tweet. And so they have the live stream going on one computer, and then they have like another thing, like an iPad or a phone or something to like check the comments and do other stuff that they have to do. And I don't have that. I mean, I have my phone, but it's not good for much because it's really old. Okay, now we can link the page. Copy the link. There we go. Okay. Sweet. So anyways, where were we? What what was I saying? Chilling out. So we're here to chill out. Yeah, that's my plan. Chill out, answer questions. I can show you stuff on my bookshelf, because I know a lot of people have been asking about that on the videos. Like, what are you reading? What's on your bookshelf? So that's what I'm here to do. And I'm trying to think. So yeah, if you have questions, stick them in the comments and I will work on them. One question that I had from a person who couldn't, I don't know if she said she couldn't be on the live stream, or if she was maybe going to be late, but I'm not. Let me see if I can check who she is. Oh, I can't off this screen. Well, anyways, she essentially said that she has a friend who's trans, and that she feels almost exhausted as an ally, like that she, and I'm assuming her pronouns here. I think her pronouns are she, her. Maybe I should go find it so that I can accurately talk about this. That'd probably be a good idea, huh? Let's see if I can find it. She commented, wait for it, Ellen, that's who it was. There we go. Okay, so I think Ellen's pronouns are she, her, so I'm gonna assume that. And Ellen, if you're watching and they're not, let me know. But she said she's supporting a trans friend, but she feels alone and that she has to be a closeted ally because she feels like she can't be out in her particular context. And that really sucks. That's a bummer that is happening to you. I think it always feels like a bit of a balance when we talk about allyship and accomplishship and walking with people. It feels, this music is so happy for this sad topic. It can be difficult to balance, like, prioritizing the actual needs and care of the person that you're trying to be an ally to, and then also taking care of yourself. Both things are important. And I don't think we want to get, like, focused in on allies in terms of prioritizing the allies of the folks who are marginalized more than the folks who are marginalized themselves. Does that make sense? But it is really hard to be an ally sometimes. And especially when you feel like you don't have anybody to talk to about it. So I think the main thing that I would suggest to people in this situation is to find other groups, even if they're online groups. Like, if you can't be out as an ally in your context for whatever reason, I would find some groups online to get in touch with. PFLAG has online groups, and they're a great resource for people who are LGBTQ and for their allies, so that's always a good one. So you can go over to PFLAG for sure and check out some of their resources. And then Gender Spectrum is always a good one for trans folks and for their allies. I think it's genderspectrum.org. Let me double check. Genderspectrum.org. It is. Cool. So genderspectrum.org has a lot of really good resources, and they also have online groups, and the online groups are mostly for LGBTQ folks themselves, but I think there's an ally group as well, so don't quote me on that, but definitely check them out. Ugh. Look at my cute little speaker that I'm using here. It's not mine, it's my girlfriend's. She's letting me use it. She's very nice about that. So, let's see. Oh, Philip, what casual books are you into? Philip wants to know. Oh gosh, casual books. I wish. I haven't actually, I'm like 5 books behind in my Goodreads reading challenge for the year right now, because I have been listening to a lot of podcasts instead of reading, which isn't super, I mean, like, it's fun, and like, I don't know, I enjoy it, but I also feel bad that I'm not reading more. The last book that I read casually that wasn't related to theology or gender was probably, I read, I found this. This is Anna Kendrick's book. I found this, I don't know if you all have this where you live, but we have these things called little free libraries here that are basically like little wooden boxes that look like tiny houses, or like bird houses almost, that sit in some of the neighborhoods around here in Minnesota. I think it was actually started in Wisconsin, but people go and they just put in books that they've already read, and they don't like necessarily want to bring to, you know, like a used bookstore or whatever, but they just put books in there, and then other people can come along and take a book out and then put a book back in, and it's really cool. Everybody just kind of puts good books in there. Well, I shouldn't, that's being a little generous. They're not always very good books, but I found this in one of them the other day, and I picked it up because I thought, like, I just need a book to devour for fun. So I read it all, like, in one day on a Sunday when I just really needed a break, and it was actually quite funny. Anna Kendrick is a funny person, so I enjoyed it. Other than that, the other stuff that I'm currently reading, we've got this book. This is Delusions of Gender, whoops, by Cordelia Fine, and it's fascinating. You guys, there's so much symbol happening. It's fascinating because essentially what it talks about is the way that that studies are done on people's brains. You know, like people, there's a lot of what's the word? Like conventional wisdom out there about like men use this part of their brain, women use this part of their brain, and you know, men think in physical dimensions and women think in relational dimensions and things like that. And so this book is all about figuring out like if any of that is actually true and how our brains work differently. And it's really fascinating actually right now. It's hard to get through. It's a little hard to get through at the moment because I've got so many other things going on. But it's actually really, it's pretty easy to read, especially if you have if you took like Psych 101 in college, you'll be fine. But it's really interesting to read about how our brains can be primed to think certain ways. So, for instance, she talks about how at the beginning of any study or test that folks do, they will sometimes ask you to like fill in your name and then like check a box for your gender, and simply checking that box for gender primes your brain to put yourself in the gender role that you think is expected of you for the rest of the test that they're doing. So that can kind of mess things up, because if they're doing a test specifically on like gender and how you respond to gendered societal norms or things like that, if they've already primed your brain to be thinking about gender roles by asking you about your gender, that can throw off the results. So that maybe sounds a little bit complicated, but it's really interesting. And right now I'm in, where am I? I'm in part 2, which is on neurosexism. So it's pretty fascinating stuff. So that's the other one that I'm reading kind of for fun. Yeah, that's about it. I just finished this one. This is The Very Good Gospel by Lisa Sharon Harper. Oops, there we go. And I just finished this one last weekend. Part of what I decided to do for Lent was read theology only by Jewish folks and queer folks and people of color. And so this book, Lisa Sharon Harper is a black woman, and she works at Sojourners magazine, and she's a really cool person. I haven't met her personally, but I sort of follow what she does, and she does a lot of really cool things. So this book, which, like the subtitle, check that out, How Everything Wrong Can Be Made Right. That's like big promises. And I picked it up and I was like, really? Really? How everything wrong can be made right? How? I was really skeptical. But essentially what she talks about is how our relationships with each other and with God, basically how those things can be sort of, what's the word I want? Like put right, and how when those relationships are put right, other pieces sort of start to fall into place. And so it's a really interesting way of looking at it, and it's really hopeful. Like, she doesn't pull any punches, but she's also really hopeful, which was good. It was a good thing to read, because it kind of made you go, all right, there's a light in the world at the end of the tunnel. Like, it's going to be okay. So if you're feeling kind of bummed out, I would recommend this one for sure. Ooh, we got questions. Let's see. Let's see. First here. Oh, this is from Iona. I want to say Iona because it's like the islands. So I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Oh, no, wait, hold up. Kimmit. Alright, just Kimmit. I love your channel. It's been so helpful. Aw, thanks for watching. I'm a first-year undergrad divinity student, thinking about going to ministry. hard as a non-binary person to think about that when there are so few discussions about trans Christian stuff here. Any advice? Yeah, man, that is so difficult. Sorry, I use... This is something that I'm working on in, like, my journey of related to gender. In Minnesota and in the Midwest, we use man and dude and you guys as, like, all-encompassing terms, and I use them for people who don't identify as men often, and then if they're not, like, familiar with that, they can feel bad. They can feel like I'm misgendering them, and I definitely don't want to be doing that, so I'm sorry. For the times when I do that in my videos, I'm working on it. So anyways, as a non-binary person thinking about going into ministry, the first thing I would do is connect with other non-binary folks going into ministry, and I know that sounds like it should be super easy, right? Not really. But there are some really cool people out there. The one thing that I would definitely put you into connection with immediately is M. Barclay over at Reconciling Ministries Network, RMN. And M. Barclay is an amazing person. They're non-binary, and they are going to ministry, and are in ministry now in a lot of ways. And RMN is putting on a, what do I want to say, like a big, not exactly a conference, a retreat. It's more of a retreat that's happening in August, and we were just talking about that today. But it's essentially a retreat for trans folks in ministry, or discerning a call to ministry, and it's happening in Chicago. So maybe not something that you can get to. It looks like you said you're in Scotland. So maybe not something that you can get to, which is unfortunate. But connecting with other non-binary folks, especially non-binary folks in your denomination, is going to be super helpful. And if you let me know what your denomination is, I will see if I can find some resources for that. But yes, the United Methodist Church has Reconciling Ministries Network, so definitely check them out if you're Methodist. Let's see, I'm thinking it'd be good to have an affirmation to try to say to myself in the mirror every morning. Any tips on what I could say to bolster my confidence? Oh, that's such a good one. Let me tell you what I have as this is not exactly an affirmation, but it's the same sort of thing that you're talking about here, I think. On my computer here, you can't see, but on my computer I have a couple of little notes for myself to help myself as I'm working on writing this manuscript. But anyways, so it's got a couple of questions. Who are you writing for? Whose approval do you think you need? And who's going to love you even if it's terrible? So for me, I have a harder time in affirming myself in sort of a statement way. I have a better time affirming myself in a question format, if that makes sense. So it kind of, I'm asking myself questions that should have an obvious answer or conclusion. I'm asking myself rhetorical questions. And that works better for me personally, because I have a hard time looking at myself in the mirror and being like, you're a good person. You know, instead, I think if you form it like a question, it allows you to have a different answer every day, kind of on the same theme. So yeah, that might be something to think about. But let me see. Any tips on what I could say to bolster confidence? And especially as somebody who's transmasculine, but hasn't done anything in terms of like physical transition, or you know, maybe you don't even want to, which is totally fine. I think for me, when I was pre-transition and generally kind of felt bad about myself, I think what I did most was working out really helped me personally, because it made me feel strong in my body, and so then even if I didn't necessarily feel that good about being in my body, I could at least feel strong, and that helped. So maybe talking to yourself about how you want to feel, not necessarily like not nitpicking and saying like I want to change this and this and this, but kind of thinking about how you what you would like sort of in an ideal world, and not as a goal to get there either, but just recognizing that you would like to feel this way, I think can sometimes be helpful, because sometimes we don't want to recognize how we do feel or how we want to feel. Does that make sense? So yeah, that's not exactly an answer, but that's kind of what I do, is ask myself questions, which allows you to sort of percolate things instead of just making a statement, because a statement can feel rote after a while, and you stop paying attention to the words. So yeah, that would be my advice, I think. Um, Sam, hi Sam. I'm thinking it would be good to have an affirmation. Oh, we just did that one. Sorry, Sam. Philip, let's see. You've answered a question I've asked already. Aw. I feel ready to come out, but I feel hung up on doing so. Any tips? How to come out? I think, man, it's so hard. And I think the problem is that coming out is not one act, one time. Coming out happens repeatedly over and over. And for a while, it can be really exhausting. I think when you're first coming out and you're not sure if people are reading you the right way, it can feel exhausting. After a while, like me coming out now, I do it when I choose to, because nobody assumes that I'm trans unless I tell them to. So I'm still coming out too, but it's not exhausting the way it was when I was like pre-T and pre, just generally like pre-social transition. Yeah, so okay, let's talk about coming out in chunks. Coming out to your family, for me, was the hardest thing, and I think for most people, coming out to your family is really, really difficult. I wrote everybody in my family a letter, essentially. I wrote them an email, and then I put together a whole list of resources. I made like a really quick web page that like linked off to a bunch of different resources, and I wrote them a long email and then included the web page and said like, if you have any questions, I'd love to talk to you. Here's what's going on with me. And that was to my sort of like extended family. For my sort of nuclear family, my siblings and my parents, I did sit down and talk to them about it. And I think the best thing to do, or at least the thing that I tried to do, and I think it worked okay, is to bring your family, and this works for your friends too, but to bring people along on the journey with you instead of just stating something, instead of just being like, here's how it is, everybody deal with it. Instead, bringing them in on it and saying like, this is where I am right now, this is how I'm feeling right now, this is what I'm thinking about doing. And that's super scary because you're inviting people's opinions. By saying that, you're sort of implicitly saying like, oh, I want you to tell me what you think I should do, when that's almost never the case. Like, for me at least, that wasn't what I wanted people to do. I just wanted to bring them in on the journey with me. And so yeah, I think talking to people about maybe, maybe we're back. Oh my gosh, you guys, the internet. What are we gonna do? I don't know where I lost you or you lost me. So let me just say that when it comes to coming out, I think the thing to do is to bring people along with you on the journey instead of just telling them what's happening. Because when you tell them what's happening, it can feel like you're, it can feel like butting heads. It can feel like being, what's the word? It starts with a C. Confrontational. It can feel like you're being confrontational. And so I think the best way to do it is to let people into your journey as much as you can, even though that can feel very vulnerable. So get yourself a little support network of people in your life that are close to you, or friends that you have, even if they're like online friends, people that you can talk to. Get yourself that support network, and then slowly bring people in, like over time. Let's see, Kimmit. Oh, good. I'm glad that the man thing did not offend you. Church of Scotland, Presbyterian, similar to PCUSA. Cool. Church of Scotland. Hey, holler Church of Scotland. I studied abroad in Scotland for a semester, and I went to a Church of Scotland church for a while, and it was really great. I heard one of my favorite sermons there that I ever heard in my whole life. Um, let's see. Pretty involved with my denomination, and I'm consulting and producing a resource on pastoral care for trans and GNC folk. That's so awesome! Freaking rocket! That is so great. I'm so excited for you. So Church of Scotland, I can't think of, well, the PCUSA has, is it More Light Presbyterians? I think. Let me double check. More Light Presbyterian churches, yes. So the PCUSA has a group called More Light, which you probably know about, creating this resource. But I would definitely check in with More Light and see if they have resources for trans people, specifically in ordination. I know that there's a group, here's another thing, this is not Presbyterian specific, but there's a group called Extraordinary Lutheran Ministries, and they are specifically for helping LGBTQ Lutherans get ordained, and they may have, like if you contact them, they may have connections with the Presbyterian Church Global, or Church of Scotland, that might be able to help. So check out Extraordinary Lutheran Ministries. That would be where I would go first, and then see if they have a connection. Because they are specifically all about helping people discern their calling and then become ordained if they want to. Sam, good. I'm glad that that helped. I'm sorry that I rambled a little bit about it, but yeah, I'm glad that helped. I turned off my music because my phone died. And also because it might have been interrupting a wireless signal. We'll see. I'm losing my voice already, you guys. Let's see. Other questions that we've got going. Philip says, how's the puppy? He's good. He's currently sleeping in the corner right now. Hey, Mo. Come here. Come here. He doesn't want to. He picked his head up and looked at me and then laid back down. He'll probably walk over here. He walked over here a minute ago, but he'll probably walk over again and I'll let him say hi. Let's see. I know that I had more questions on Twitter, so let me go over there and see what we got there. Where was it? Hold on. Or maybe it wasn't on Twitter. Maybe it was a Facebook message. This is my problem with having so many different places where I talk to people. Well, I can't find it. Hopefully whoever it was will ask again. Let's see. What should we talk about? Golly, I had so many thoughts. I had so many things to talk about in this video. Let's see if I can look at my notes. Let me throw an idea at you guys. This is just a thought that I've been having, and that is I can't do this now because I have zero free time / time at all to do anything because I'm working on the book and working a full-time job and a whole bunch of other things. So I don't have time to do it now. But what would you think about in the future doing a sort of online Bible study or online sort of support group thing, specifically for transgender, non-conforming, non-binary Christians? Because I think that could be really fun to have like a weekly, because it's essentially like this, I think, because I think it might be too complicated to have everybody in like one big video chat together, especially if we had quite a few people. But to do something like this, where it would be like an interactive Bible study, I think that'd be really fun. And yeah, so it's something I'm kind of tossing around in my head. And if it's something that you are interested in maybe doing starting in the fall, let me know. Kim, it says yes, so that's good. We got one person on board. Yes, and Philip's in. Yes, good. So if you are interested in that, let me know. And maybe I'll put out like a little feeler, you know, what do you call those things? You know, like the... What's the word I want? Not MailChimp. What is it? The Survey Monkey. There we go. I knew there was a monkey involved. Maybe I'll put out a SurveyMonkey type thing that's like, what would you think about being involved in this? Because I think it'd be really fun, and I'm glad that you all are excited about it too. So maybe for the fall, maybe this can be a fall thing. I'll think about it. Yeah, I had a really good time leading a book group not that long ago. I think it was last summer, actually. So it was a while ago. But I led a book group reading Deborah Gian Lee's book, Rescuing Jesus, which I made a video about way back then. Maybe it was last Christmas before last. I don't remember. But I led that with my church, and it was really fun. And so, yeah, that's another idea, too. We'll see. Austin, yes, another Austin, yay! You spell your name differently than I do, but I really like your spelling too. I don't know if I've ever talked about this before, but part of the reason that I chose to spell my name the way that I did when I changed it was because my middle name, my birth middle name, was after a literary character, and so when I changed my first name, I wanted to have some connection to my birth name, to my given name. And so I chose Austen after the author. So that's an easy way to remember how to spell it when I go out places and they're like, how do you spell your name? And I'm like, it's Austin, like the author, not like the place in Texas. But I really like that way of spelling it too. I think they're both great. Have you seen Logan? No, I haven't. Which is kind of a bummer because I love the X-Men and just Marvel movies in general. But no, I haven't, and I might go see it. I might just wait till it comes out on streaming or DVD or something, because I haven't really gone to see that many movies lately, because movies are freaking expensive. I live in St. Paul/Minneapolis area, and the closest theater to me is like a giant AMC theater where it costs like $15 to see a movie. So I hardly ever go see things unless I'm super pumped about them. And then, like, even when I am, sometimes I don't. Like, my girlfriend really wanted to go see Hidden Figures when it came out, and we were like, yes, we're going to go see it this weekend, and we didn't. We're going to go see it this weekend, and we didn't. And we never ended up going to see it, and I'm bummed out. But I think it might be streaming now, maybe, someplace. So yeah, we'll see. But I think, what was the last movie I saw? I feel like it was... Oh, the last movie I saw was Rogue One. That's what it was. So that was a while ago. Wasn't that like Christmas time-ish? And now it's almost, well, it's mid-spring. It's heart-wrenching. All right, I will watch out for that. Let's see. What else? Going back to my list of things to talk about, because I have been writing things down as I think of them. Nope, that's my grocery list. That's not it. Oh, I was thinking the other day, and maybe I'll make more of a video about this at some point, but I was thinking about that like quote that's often attributed to C.S. Lewis, and I think it really is him, but the quote that says, you are not a body with a soul, you are a soul with a body, or a soul that has a body. And I was thinking about that not that long ago, and how for a while that quote was super relevant for me. Like, it was really helpful to think about that separation of like body and spirit for me for a while, because I was so far away from being able to connect with my body, and so it was helpful to think about things in very like heady spiritual terms, and that's part of why I got so fascinated by and interested in theology, was because it was something that I could not something I could wrap my head around. That implies that I can understand it all, which I can't. But it was like, it was something that I could get with my brain, right? And so it was really helpful to sort of separate things in that way. But as I went along in my transition and became less and less separated from my body and how I felt, the more I thought about that phrase, like, you are not a body with a soul, you are a soul with a body, the more I thought about it, the more I was like, no, these two things are not separate, they are integrated, they are connected to each other, they are inseparable. And so I don't know, I'm not sure how to think about that, because you see that separation in the New Testament too, especially. In the Old Testament, there is no concept of this separation of like body and soul. In the Old Testament, you are a whole person. And if there's any sense of like movement beyond your own life, it is in the form of the kids that you have. It's in the form of your family and your children. But in the New Testament, we get all this stuff from Paul about like the fruit of the Spirit and, you know, the problems with the flesh and all these things. And I think, I don't know, I'm interested in exploring the idea of how those things can maybe come together in a more holistic sense, because the separation of the person into like body and soul and heart, or body and soul and mind, or things like that, is a very Greek idea. And while you can't separate Christianity from those early Greek roots, I think we have to be more cognizant of the way that those things can be difficult. Like what we read in the New Testament so many times are, in Paul's letters especially, they're products of the context of being in a Greek society with certain norms that were not the case for, say, people in the Old Testament, or for, say, people now. So how do we separate those things that are specifically from Greek society versus things that are specific to Christian identity and belief throughout the ages, right? So anyways, I'm still mulling that over. Still mulling over that connection between body and mind and soul, and how those things can be, how we can understand ourselves more holistically. Lots of people have written about this, so there's a lot of reading to do. But I get frustrated with that idea of like, yeah, your body's not important. Like, the flesh is a bad thing. And that's just not true. Like, we are created as and, you know, that life is breathed into us. So I don't know. I just think getting rid of the idea of the body, or thinking the body's unnecessary, is a real bummer, and isn't necessarily biblically sound either. Let's see. Austin asks, what churches do you think are engaging the trans topic in a positive way? Do you have suggestions for getting a church to engage the trans topics? Let's see. What churches are engaging in a positive way? I'm not sure if I should go like specific or denominationally there, because you could go either way. Denominationally, I think undeniably, the UCC, the United Church of Christ, is the church that is furthest ahead in like acceptance and affirmation of trans and gender nonconforming folks. They have all kinds of resources. I think it's like, don't quote me on this, but I think like as a United Methodist Church, you essentially accept the fact that the United Methodist Church as a whole is LGBT affirming, so you have to be affirming too, I think. And so they're generally, like every United Methodist Church I've been to is super awesome and super ready to talk about issues of like difference and what we can do better. And I think the most people who are trans that are going for ordination that I have talked to are going for ordination in the UCC, specifically because of that, because they're so open and so affirming. So yeah, the UCC has probably got everybody else pegged, and is probably a little bit ahead of everybody else. In terms of like how they're talking about it, I don't know if it's necessarily that they're talking about it in a better way, but they are, I don't think they hold a view of Scripture and of theology that sees sexuality and gender identity as a problem, if that makes sense. Like they don't hold the same view of Scripture as like the ultimate authority that, say, like Baptists do, right? So there's a difference in the way that they see scriptural authority, and then therefore there's a difference in the way that they treat people who maybe have like clobber verse passages that can be used against them. So yeah, I think they're just coming from a different place. But they're doing a lot of good things, including having a denominational sort of statement, working with people who want to be ordained in a really positive way, as far as I have heard. Yeah, so they're doing a really good job. What can we do to get a church to engage trans topics? I think the number one thing that I have seen in terms of like who's asking me, oh, Kimmit has to go. Bye, Kimmit. Get some sleep. I hope you sleep well. Um, the number one thing that I notice when I'm talking to churches that like want me to come do a trans and Christian sort of training with them is that it's usually happening because somebody in their congregation has recently come out as trans. Like that is almost always the case where a pastor gets to me and they're like, hey, turns out somebody just came out as trans and we have no idea how to handle it. And so that's usually when they bring me in. So I think the main thing for most churches is realizing that trans folks are in their community already. I was just reading something the other day that it was like, on average, trans folks are more involved in their faith community if they are part of one than cisgender folks who are part of a church community. So, like, yeah, that just says something about the fact that trans folks are already in our churches, whether they are out or not. And so it's important to recognize that, and it's important to make the space and make the community as supportive as possible. And that doesn't necessarily mean like, say that you're a pastor of a non-affirming church, right? I don't mean like, oh, a trans person came out in your church, you have to immediately change the way that you think because this person is part of your church. That's kind of an impossible ask, I think, for some pastors, for instance. But I think if you are a pastor in a non-affirming church and a trans person comes out in your church, you do have a responsibility to, first of all, educate yourself to a point where you can treat them with the respect that they deserve as a human being, as a child of God, as one of your siblings in Christ. And then at that point, like after you've gotten to the point of treating somebody with the dignity and respect that we all deserve, then you can move on to like theological issues, right? What happens so often instead is that a pastor of a non-affirming church will be like, oh, a trans person in our church, and they will start from the theological side and come to the person and be like, hey, I understand that you think you're trans, but here's what I believe about trans folks. And that shoves the trans person out the door immediately. And I guess if you want a church where certain people are not welcome, then maybe that's what you're going for, but hopefully not. So yeah, tips for helping churches engage. One, I think, recognize that trans folks are already in your midst in a very real way. And so Austin, if you're trans, I think you said you're trans. I can't remember where you set it up here, but anyways, I think you said that you are. If you're trans and you think that it's possible to come out in your context in like a safe, healthy way, that can be a real beacon of light for the people in your community. Because the minute that they see you and go, oh, this person is here, and this is what it looked like, mostly people say this is what it looked like to be trans, when like not all trans people look one way, but they'll have something to connect to, and they'll have something to say like, oh, this is a person who we've cared about, since they were a baby or since they joined the church or whatever. And if they're trans, that's going to mean something for the way that we think about trans folks. So coming out within your church community can really shine sort of a beacon of light for people and get them to ask those first questions and to start educating themselves. If people think there's no reason to educate themselves, if they think like, we can get away with ignoring this issue forever, they're going to do it because that's just easier. So I don't say that to put all the pressure on you and be like, it's up to you to get them to do things. That's not what I mean. But I think that is the most effective way. There are definitely other ways. There are definitely ways that people can like come out and say, this is an issue that I think we should address, regardless of whether or not people come out immediately, regardless of whether or not it's you coming out. I still think people can bring it up, and that's totally fine. It's just that I've seen that as the most sort of like immediate way, is people go, oh my gosh, one of our own, and then they start doing things about it, hopefully in a positive way. Austin, you said you identify as gender neutral. Cool. Okay, so sorry if I misused your pronouns. Yes, so that's what I would say. Is bring, if you don't want to come out, which is totally fine. If you don't want to come out, but you do want to get your church started on a path of addressing these issues, talk with the leadership in your church. That doesn't necessarily have to be like your head honcho pastor. That could be somebody who is involved in the church in a different way. But talk to them about the fact that you think their church or your church should start having conversations about this. And you don't also necessarily have to be like, we need to become affirming immediately. We need to do this. But just say, like, I think we should create some space for conversation about these issues. And that might mean having a coffee hour, 1 month. It's like, let's talk about LGBT folks, or let's talk about trans folks, or let's talk about, non-binary folks or gender-neutral folks. And just to kind of get people talking, just get people talking to each other, and to have a place where you can disseminate information in an easy way. Shower them with pamphlets. That didn't just cut off the end of what I said. It's okay, it was a cheesy joke anyway. Man, this is great. I'm excited about this. I'm excited about this whole live thing. Let's see if we've got more things coming in from other places. Hold on. Let's see. Sorry, bear with me for a second as I try to make sure that I get to everybody's questions if they have them. Okay. Well, I think we're okay for now. I think I've talked about all the things that I've been asked to talk about for the moment. Oh man. This is great. This is really fun. I like this. What else did I promise you all that I would do? Let's pull off a couple of these resources, because I think you might want to know about them. Because books are great. I love books. Can you tell? Look, here's bookshelf number 1. There's bookshelf number 2 over there, and I've got a third one around the corner. And my girlfriend's got a whole different one way over on the other side of the room. Sorry, hope I didn't give you a vertigo there. Let's talk about books. Let's talk about a couple of handy things. Ooh, I just got this. If any of you are looking for a resource that is specifically geared towards parents and caregivers, so if you've got like a psychologist or a doctor or somebody, this is a really great book. It's called The Transgender Teen. Oops, there we go. It's by Stephanie Brill and Lisa Kenny. They wrote a really good book called The Transgender Child a couple of years ago. Actually, it was Stephanie Brill and another co-author. But she wrote a really good book called The Transgender Child, and then they updated this one specifically to address the needs of teenagers and young adults. And I'm working my way through it slowly. As a resource, I kind of look at it occasionally, and I haven't read through the whole thing cover to cover. But I trust Stephanie Brill to say really good things, and so this is something that I recommend to parents all the time. Yeah, and it starts in a really good way talking about like mental health and being a parent, and essentially saying like, first of all, there's nothing wrong with your kid, and second of all, here's why it's really important that you support them. So a good resource to start with if you want to give something to a parent. Let's see. This is the book that I, when people ask me, like, what books are there on transgender theology, this is always the book that I talk about. So it's called Transgendered Theology, Ministry, and Communities of Faith by Justin Tanis. And obviously the language is a little outdated now. It says transgendered. But this is a book that was published back in 2003. And it's Justin Tanis's, I believe it was his PhD dissertation originally. Justin Tanis is a transgender guy who works for the, what is it called again? Hold on. Center for Lesbian and Gay Studies in Religion and Ministry at Pacific School of Religion in Berkeley. That's a long name. But he is still there, I believe. So he wrote this, and it essentially talks about different Bible passages, which are some of the things that I talk about in my videos too, and I owe him a great debt for kind of exploring this a long time before I got to it. But so he talks about gender variance in Scripture. He talks about current faith communities and how they're treating trans folks, and he talks about like some larger themes like encountering God and the image and gender of God and all these things. And so it's a really good book. Only problem is that it is out of print now, and it doesn't look like they're going to make any more. It's from Pilgrim Press. And it doesn't look like they're going to make any more, and so right now, if you go look this book up on Amazon, it's like $50 or something. I must have gotten one of the last copies, because when I bought it three or 4 years ago, it was still like $25, so that was nice. So it's really kind of hard to get your hands on a copy of this right now, but if you ever notice one of these, or you search like used bookstores or whatever, like thriftbooks.com, I think it's .com, and you see a copy of this, snatch it up because it's really good. And just like, it's kind of a really good basics book. What else have we got going on here? These two are, well, this one is kind of a staple. This is OmniGender, a Transreligious Approach by Virginia Ramsey Mollenkott. And OmniGender is a book that has been around for a while. When was it first published? Hold on. 2001, it looks like, and then republished in 2007. But Virginia Ramsey Mollenkott is kind of one of the, I want to say she's like one of the staples of like gender diverse theology. She shows up, oh my gosh, I think her pronouns are she, her. Now I'm doubting myself. And I don't think it has it in here either. Well, anyways, Virginia writes a lot in a lot of different places. They usually, like if you go look up any sort of research or like scholarly paper about any sort of trans and Christian issues, usually Virginia is there. And I don't agree with everything that they say, but they point out a lot of really good things. This book only has a little bit on Christianity, but there's a lot, because it covers basically all world religions, or the majority of them. Let's see. So they begin by talking about like binary gendering as an unjust system, which is a great section title. And then, chapter 4 is all about Judaism. Chapter 5 is about Christianity. Chapter 6 includes ancient religions, African religions, Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, shamanism, Native American religions. So those are some pretty big categories, but they at least touch on each of them. And so it's kind of a revised and expanded, it says on top. It's kind of a staple for this kind of work, and it's actually pretty easy to read. There's some sort of academic language, blah-de-blah in it, but it's mostly pretty easy to read. And then this one, which I honestly have not been able to get into, but I want to. This is Peculiar Faith by J. Emerson Johnson, Queer Theology for Christian Witness. And I was really excited to read it. And it's, when I started reading it, how far am I? I'm chapter... Oh, I've read the introduction and half of chapter 1. So I didn't get very far. But it's kind of dense. It's a little difficult to read. I don't think I'd find it as difficult to read if I wasn't trying to read so many other things at the same time. But it's essentially, he comes at it from a cisgender gay man's perspective, and so it's not trans-specific or gender-specific, but it does essentially talk about how LGBTQ people in general are bringing something to Christianity that nobody else is, and like why our witness is important, which is something that I feel very strongly about as well. So check this one out if you want a little bit more of a dense read, but it's still a really good one so far. Hold on, we got a question. I recently came out, hi Jenny, I recently came out as a trans man. I received a message from a Christian friend saying that I need to let God tell me who I am before I decide who I am. How do I address this and other comments like this that I will probably get? Yeah, you're probably going to get these questions for a while. Man, when I was, quick story time, and then I'll try to answer this as best as I can. Oh, bye, Sam. Heading off now. Looking forward to watching the rest of this later. Oh, you're so great. Sleep well, Sam. Um, when I was heading to get top surgery, when I finally was going to go get top surgery, and I was so super stoked about it, I had to fly to Cleveland to see a surgeon there, and I was in my Airbnb the night before, and I was like just trying to chill out and relax as much as possible. And I was on Facebook, and all of a sudden I got a message pop up from a family member of mine who is not, like, really not affirming of trans folks and me because of that. And he wrote me a message that night that said, like, please do not mutilate your body. You're doing a terrible thing, and you're gonna regret it for the rest of your life, and like all this stuff. And it totally threw me for a loop. Like, despite the fact that I knew absolutely that this was the right thing to do, and that I had been waiting for it and looking forward to it for so long, and that I was so excited for it, and like I have not regretted it for a single second since the day I got top surgery. It has changed my life in such a huge and wonderful way. But in that moment when I received that message, I was totally like, ah! Like, it just threw me. And it was because even though I hardly ever see this family member, like, they're still a member of my family, and that stuff can be hard to hear, even when it's totally not true, and even when it's not something that you believe, or, you know, like, it still hurts because it's from a friend or family member that's close to you, and that sucks. It even actually sucks when it's like a friend or family member that you're not close to and that you barely ever talk to. It still hurts. So, I think, first of all, let yourself feel that if you have to, if you need to, like, let yourself feel that that might not feel good, and it's okay, and it doesn't mean that you're doing a wrong thing. It just means that you are a person with feelings who cares what people think, and that's okay. Um, Basically, in the sort of meat of this question, like, you need to let God tell you who you are before you say who you are. Like, I agree with the spirit there, but it's just a really messy way of um, conveying that they think they know who you are. Like, they're essentially saying, let me tell you who you are before you decide who you are. So that's not super helpful. I think that is maybe what it comes down to, is like, the real, the underside of that question is them saying, let society tell you who you are, which isn't any better, right? Like, how do we come to a point where we say, yes, I sincerely and for sure know that this is what God wants for my life and wants me to do? There are maybe a couple of times in your life where you have that sense of clarity and where you go, yep, this is it. Like, I feel like I know for sure this is what God wants me to do. But, like, those are not everyday occurrences, and they are not even an occurrence that happens every time you have to make a big decision. Like, I don't know, how many times have you had to make a giant decision in your life and felt like you didn't have any sort of sign, you know? And the fact that this is maybe no different, like your transition is maybe no different, does not, you're not getting a sign or not being absolutely 100% totally sure, does not mean that your coming out or your transition is wrong. It just means that sometimes we don't get signs when we wish we had signs. And I think that's just the case always, pretty much, for everything we do. How do you address it? I think you address it by saying, thank you for caring about me and my well-being. First of all, I think that's the gracious thing to do, is to say, like, thank you for caring about me and about who I am. And thank you for caring about my relationship with God. So that's like a first thing you can put out there, and in many ways that can sort of help them realize that you're on the same page. Like, yeah, you both do want to do what God wants you to do. You just have different ideas about what that looks like. The second thing is maybe to say that if this is somebody that you, like, want to keep in your life and let in on this sort of journey with you, explain to them how you have been thinking about this, and what you think God is saying to you in your life. And so, like, this is going to be a longer conversation. This is something that's going to, like, go back and forth between you for a while if you want to draw them into that conversation. If there's somebody that's just, like, saying a thing and you're like, I don't really know you that well and or care about our relationship that much, then maybe this is something that doesn't deserve quite as much of your emotional energy. I think maybe you can just say, like, yes, I'm working to discern God's will in my life, and I don't think that I am trying to create myself in a way that is contrary to who God made me. I'm just trying to become more of who God made me to be. That's how I explain it to people, is that, like, this isn't me changing myself to become more what I want to. Okay, hang on. How am I going to phrase this? It's not like me being like, hey, gosh, I wish I had six-pack abs. I guess I'm going to go get surgery to have six-pack abs, right? Like, that's not what's happening. I'm not changing myself to be the ideal. I'm not conforming myself to this world, as the Bible would say, right? What I'm trying to do is become more fully God's image in the world. And the only way I can do that is by getting rid of all the things that stand between me and my relationship with other people and my relationship with God. And for me, Austin, one of the things that got in the way of my relationship with others and my relationship with God was my dysphoria. So minimalizing that dysphoria made me more able to connect with others and to connect with God. So maybe explaining that to them would help. We've got some intense sirens going on outside. Hold on. So yeah, I hope that helps. We'll see. Good luck. It really sucks to deal with that, and it's something that I think happens to all of us, at least in the beginning. And you get better at handling it as you go along, I think. Oh my gosh, well, it's 5:04 here in Minnesota, so I had probably better go because, oh, wait, hold on. Ben, hi Ben, I totally missed your comment. Where's Mowgli, he says. Mowgli, do you want to come say hi yet? Do you want to come say hi? Come here. Come here, bud. He's just laying there looking at me like, why? What do you want? Come here. Okay, I'm gonna go get him, hold on. Oh, now you're getting up. Now you're getting up. Here he is. This is my baby. You want to say hi? He says hi. He wants to know what that dog is doing barking outside. Oh, he's going to get his first haircut tomorrow. It's going to be great. They're going to cut your little beard. They're going to cut all the fur on your paws. His paws are like half the size that they look because they're just covered in fur. Anyways, so this is Mowgli, and he says hi, and he loves you no matter what, so don't forget. See? Look at those eyes. He loves you. He knows. He knows what's up. All right. Everyone, thanks for being here and for participating in the very first live stream. This was so exciting and great. Exciting and exciting. So exciting I said it twice. I hope you are all doing well, and I hope those of you excuse me, that have to go to sleep are sleeping well. And I'm going to go before I completely lose my voice. So thanks for being here. I'm going to try to upload this whole video onto YouTube. We'll see if Facebook lets me do it. I don't know how this works, so we'll find out. So, thanks everybody. We'll see you soon. Peace.